Welcome back to On the Record from Breakaway. We're with Jay McBain from Lenovo. He is the Director of the Americas for the small and medium-sized business, and he must be doing something right because Lenovo's been growing pretty quickly lately. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Great. So we're going to get started right off, and I know it's an area that you've been looking into a lot. The cloud. What do you think of it?
Well, the cloud, and when you talk to attendees here at Breakaway and most of the resellers that are here, the answer is that the cloud is nebulous. No one has the same definition. No two people have the same definition. Being part of Lenovo, it's good for us to know what value we can add to the cloud. Knowing that we make extremely good devices, access to the cloud, some of the future of the cloud around pervasive computing, where people may have 10 or 20 devices. You're starting to see a lot of devices come out in consumer markets today, and we have thousands of engineers that are focused on making them more manageable, secure, reliable, durable, and then moving those type of devices. A good example recently is Slate. A lot of questions here at Breakaway whether a Slate can be used in a medical practice or whether it can be used in a financial institution. Lenovo is hard at work at thinking through those type of devices, how they make sense, but more the business aspect as opposed to what's neat for a consumer.
So let's stay with this cloud. What's your definition of it?
Well, the cloud has gone by 4 or 5 different names in the last 20 years. And if you look at the history of networking, and whether it was the edge of the network or whether it was on demand or whether it was e-business, it's been named a lot of different things.
Well, there's others too, like time sharing.
Correct.
I'm older than you. So time sharing, disaster recovery rooms to some extent because they started thin client.
Yeah. And when my first day at IBM, I was given a terminal services. I worked off an AS400 and a mainframe. Everything I did in 1994 was in the cloud. My device that I used was a green screen. So, the concept isn't new. It's nice to have a new varnish on it. And it's an exciting market in terms of, knowing that we're going to get there. And over the next 10 years, there's going to be new applications and new business processes and other things that we don't even envision today. And it's exciting for us. It's also exciting for Lenovo to be, really at the forefront of access to the cloud and thinking through manageability and security and the other types of things that will make the cloud really work in business.
Great. So you go to market pretty much completely. I think you are 100% through the channel.
A big focus
for the SMB.
Yes.
Why? Why do you want them?
The SMB market itself, if you're just to look at how to go to market, really breaks into a third, and a third. With a third of customers buying through the corporate channel, a third buying retail, and a third buying direct. We look very closely at our heritage going back in Lenovo, what we do extremely well, working with from distributors to large partners to the smallest VAR, perhaps working in their small region. And that's something we do extremely well. It's been part of our DNA since the beginning. We have not had a big history of selling to small and medium businesses through retail. And direct for us is really a product showcase as an opportunity to bring more customers back to the channel where it makes sense. And the future, you talked about the cloud, but the future of managed services and compliance and all these different industry opportunities or product verticals really centers for us around the channel.
So what do you want your channel partners to do for you?
For us, it's obviously to represent Lenovo, but I view it kind of the other way around as what we can do for our channel partners. There's enough.
Be next.
There's enough, and we hear it from a lot of our peers and a lot of large companies, really laying out what the elite status means and what the different levels of adherence to their partner programs and all this complexity around this stuff. And last year we made a decision to go the other direction, which was to make oversimplified programs. We reduced 26 programs down to 6. We took away all clip levels. We took away the requirement to report to us what you're selling. We listened to our partners, and whether you're selling 1 ThinkPad a quarter or 1,000 ThinkPads a quarter, you have ability to make upwards of 20% margin selling PCs.
Not the 4 or 5% that it used to be.
It was in single digits, but we've really invested heavily. Again, by really focusing on the channel, we've taken all of our investments and made sure that we may not have as big as margin as selling services, but when it gets up there towards 20%, it's a viable business for service providers and resellers to be in.
So if you had to talk about the DNA of your ideal VAR, what would that ideal VAR look like?
For our VARs, and we've got a very wide network of VARs, and some specialize in product verticals. We have some of the best, Pro AV or voice over IP partners that there is worldwide. We also have some excellent industry vertical experience. When we're looking for leadership in healthcare, or leadership in retail businesses, for us, we really look to the channel, and they give us the feedback about product development, program development, pricing models, and that's really the ideal, is for them to take the lead. One thing that we did recently, and we talked a lot about externally, was that we said that we weren't going to buy a big services company. In the industry today, 2 of our biggest competitors bought massive service organizations. And with our legacy going back to IBM, we have a lot in our DNA about trying to manage a big company, trying to manage conflict, trying to manage this this difficulty with who's on first. And Lenovo is a pure play hardware company. The services that we do offer are complementary, things like warranties and accident protection. What we don't want to do is get into the middle of a deal, and perhaps conflict with our partners in terms of what they do best.
So let's talk about the actual traits of that ideal VAR. So the one that you're dealing with, the one that you can help the most, the one that can help you the most. So I was going to use, maybe I will, here's 2 Canadian boys, and I'm going to say, ask not what Lenovo can do for you, but for what you can do for Lenovo, or vice versa, depending upon where you're looking at it. The question that I have is the pure traits that they have, the things that you think are absolutely necessary for them to be really, really successful, because obviously the more successful they are with your product, the more successful you are.
Right. It's an excellent question, and I'm going to answer it in a little bit of a different way, but it goes back to what I said earlier. If you have, for example, 20,000 VARs, what we've found is you've got 20,000 unique business models. What we don't want to do at Lenovo is start to create categories and to call somebody a healthcare or an SMB or some sort of leadership. What we're really trying to do is look at each VAR for what they bring to the market, the niche or the value proposition that differentiates them either from the person across the street or someone 2 states or provinces away. And we've taken a step back and tried to celebrate 20,000 unique businesses with unique traits and unique value propositions. And really the customer is the judge of what makes the DNA of the ideal VAR. And we're there to kind of support that with programs and with simplicity, as opposed to dictating what part of the program or what tier a VAR should be in and what attributes and the checklist of 26 things it takes to be a part. We don't have any of that. So one of the things that has differentiated us, specifically in the last year, is that open arms approach where we celebrate, if you can, 20,000 different unique sets of traits.
You deal with distributors. I think everything goes through disti, doesn't it?
Most.
What's the value that they add?
In the that answer, it differs for the world, but in the US and in Canada specifically, it's a very different distribution model than anywhere else in the world. Absolutely. And for us to be, selling as an industry billions of dollars every quarter through a very few and very strong set of distributors would be different than in Europe, for example, where they'll have 125 distributors by country, by language, and other things. And the distribution model in the US and Canada has gone far beyond the warehouse and a bank approach. Their ability to market, their ability to touch and build communities within their user base, their ability to get to new markets and build out adjacent opportunities is phenomenal. And we've invested and actually doubled our investments in the distribution channels over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's nice to see them moving. I think they're all scrambling a little bit about the managed services and the cloud right now, but I would bet my money on that they're not all the major ones will come through and figure that out and where they play.
Absolutely.
The reseller channel, let's go back to that for a couple of minutes. So,
okay.
You've talked about what you can do for them, but why? Let's go back into that one question. Like, why not go direct? Like, what is it that they really are providing to you?
Okay, and it's a great question. I'll give you a direct answer for a direct question. Is that we've been there and done that. So Lenovo and before Lenovo at IBM, we have tried out several different models, from going direct to working directly with resellers as opposed to going through distribution, to going through distribution. And so we've probably tried every scenario, permutation and combination of going to market. We have our own return on investment, and we have our own empirical evidence that shows the model that we have built now is the most optimal. It's allowing resellers to do what they do best and not competing on a services side or other areas. And it's let distributors do what they do best. It's letting the large direct marketers, DRCs and DMRs do what they do best, and let the e-tailers do what they do best. And in the end, kind of not get in the way.
How important do you think it is to an end user to have a VAR involved?
Well, based on our strategy, we think it's paramount importance. And looking at what I said earlier about how people buy, as you look at a healthcare vertical, for example, that needs to be HIPAA compliant and needs to adhere to the Healthcare Reform Act in the US and has to install electronic medical records. I personally don't want my doctor reading over 100,000 pages of regulation and legislation on technology. I was hoping they would be on, reading medical journals and letting an IT provider do that work. And that goes for every industry. As new financial reforms come out, as new reforms, there's probably going to be oil and gas reforms. As this touches every industry, there gets a tipping point or a threshold point of where a business can do it themselves. And that's where an IT provider who spends time at CompTIA's, spends time at these events, becomes black belt experts in each of these areas of regulation, will win the day, because that now becomes less expensive for that doctor, for example, to pay on a recurring monthly model, as opposed to investing their own time to making it happen.
Absolutely.